Have you ever wondered what Hollywood worked overtime to hide, not in the script, but in the tailoring? The Golden Age sold polish, control, and perfect silhouettes. Yet behind the cameras, wardrobe departments whispered, studio memos multiplied, and creative solutions appeared where you would least expect them. Halfway through this list, you will notice a pattern that changes how you look at classic costumes forever. Stick with me. Some legends were never written into dialogue. They were stitched, weighted, and carefully framed just out of sight. Number 15. Johnny Weissmuller. Before superheroes ruled screens, Weissmuller ruled the jungle. A champion swimmer turned global star, he wore one of the simplest costumes in film history, and that simplicity caused constant panic. The Tarzan films of the early 1930s depended on movement, water, and speed. That meant the camera never stopped watching. Studio crews quickly learned that the jungle outfit needed constant attention. Seamstresses waited off camera with thread and pins. Publicists quietly asked theaters to dim lights during certain scenes. It was not about story, it was about control. The studio wanted Tarzan powerful, not distracting. Behind the scenes, fixes grew more creative. Stronger ties, hidden lines, darker fabric. Every solution existed to keep the image intact. Fans noticed anyway. Letters arrived. Rumors spread. The studio never denied a thing. Silence did the work. What makes Weissmuller's case fascinating is how early it happened. Long before social media freeze frames, audiences already noticed what did not fit the usual leading man mold. His physical presence helped define the character. Tarzan looked different because he was different. By the time his films ended, the legend had already outgrown the actor, and Hollywood learned an early lesson. When the costume is simple, the myth becomes impossible to manage. Number 14. Gary Cooper. Gary Cooper represented calm strength, quiet confidence, moral certainty. Presidents admired him. Studios trusted him. But behind that steady image, costume departments dealt with challenges that never appeared in fan magazines. Westerns were the issue: tight denim, heavy belts, long rides under harsh lights. All of it created visual problems that directors did not plan for. Wardrobe notes from the era reveal repeated adjustments: thicker fabric, darker tones, reinforced seams. Small changes meant to guide the viewer's eye elsewhere. What made the situation delicate was Cooper's reputation. He was not meant to feel showy. He was meant to feel grounded. Anything that pulled attention away from his face threatened that balance. So solutions stayed quiet. Rumors spread anyway. Crew members talked. Leading ladies joked. The studio never responded. That silence turned whispers into legend. Fans noticed patterns without knowing why. Cooper himself never played into it. He stayed reserved. Let the roles speak. Let the stories grow without comment. That refusal to acknowledge the chatter only strengthened it. In the end, Cooper became a case study in contrast. The most restrained star on screen carried one of the most persistent off-screen legends. Hollywood did not confirm it. Hollywood did not need to. The tailoring told the story. Number 13. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn never aimed for subtle. He moved through Hollywood like a dare that never cooled down. Sword fights, pirate ships, ballroom entrances, everything about him leaned forward. That included the way costumes fit his frame. Warner Brothers' wardrobe files show repeated notes requesting extra ease in belts and trousers. Sword rigs were adjusted, camera blocking shifted, not to hide him entirely, but to keep balance in the frame. Flynn did not mind the attention. He understood image as performance. Unlike others on this list, Flynn leaned into rumor. His charm lived in excess. The studio responded with humor. Promotional art played with angles. Props sat slightly off-center. Suggestion without confirmation. Crew members joked openly. Directors worked around it. Flynn treated it all as part of the show. When stories followed him into courtrooms and headlines, the physical legend became tangled with his larger reputation. What made it last was his confidence. He never corrected anyone, never clarified. He let the myth run because it matched the danger he sold on screen. Flynn did not become a legend by hiding. He became one by daring the camera to keep up, and Hollywood adjusted accordingly. Number 12. Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra understood lighting better than most directors. On stage, every shadow mattered, every crease told a story, and tailoring for him became a quiet form of stagecraft. His performances in the 1940s and 50s brought intense spotlight focus. Thin fabric and movement created issues that wardrobe teams worked hard to manage. Custom garments appeared, reinforced linings, careful cuts, nothing accidental. Unlike many stars, Sinatra knew the rumors and did not fight them. He let jokes circulate, let talk show hosts hint. A raised eyebrow did more than a denial ever could. The mystique became part of his rhythm. Backstage stories followed him from radio to film. Some exaggerated, some grounded in truth. What mattered was consistency. The image never slipped fully into chaos. It stayed controlled, designed. Sinatra's genius was understanding how suggestion fuels fascination. By never addressing the chatter directly, he kept attention where he wanted it, on the voice, on the stance, on the confidence. In classic Hollywood, silence was often policy. For Sinatra, silence was strategy, and it worked perfectly. Number 11. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando disrupted Hollywood simply by existing differently. He moved differently, spoke differently, dressed differently. That included his total lack of interest in traditional underlayers and rigid costume rules. Film sets struggled. Lightweight fabrics clung under heat. Movement created outlines that made studio heads nervous. Memos circulated suggesting added weight, thicker material, and altered cuts. Brando ignored most of it. His response was simple. Authenticity mattered more than polish. If the camera caught something unexpected, that was the camera's problem. Directors adjusted framing, designers adjusted plans. Brando stayed the same. What separates Brando from others is intent. He was not trying to create legend. He simply refused to manage perception. That refusal created one anyway. Audiences felt the difference. His presence carried weight beyond dialogue. Physicality became part of the performance. Not controlled, not softened, just real. By the time Hollywood realized it could not shape him, the myth had already formed. Brando proved that when a system loses control, stories grow faster than any studio memo can stop. Number 10. Milton Berle. Milton Berle did not fight the rumor. He turned it into material. While most Golden Age stars relied on silence, Berle leaned forward and smiled. Early television was cautious, tightly framed, and monitored closely. Yet backstage chatter followed him everywhere. Wardrobe departments quietly selected heavier fabrics. Tailors reinforced seams. Directors avoided wide shots during live broadcasts. Berle knew exactly what people whispered. Instead of denying it, he joked around it. Not directly, never crude. Just enough suggestion to keep the audience leaning in. A raised eyebrow, a pause, a perfectly timed grin. That restraint kept everything within bounds while letting imaginations do the rest. What made Berle unique was control. He decided how much of the legend survived. By acknowledging it without explaining it, he removed its power to embarrass. The story belonged to him. Crew members later admitted that television censorship teams watched him more closely than anyone else. Not because of dialogue, because of movement, because live broadcasts left no room for adjustment. Berle proved something important. In classic Hollywood, humor could redirect attention better than any studio memo. When you own the joke, the rumor loses its bite. Number 9. Forrest Tucker. Forrest Tucker never pretended to be subtle. Tall, broad, and confident, Tucker carried himself with open swagger. Studio gatherings, poolside events, casual rehearsals. He never seemed concerned with concealment. That confidence fueled stories that spread quickly through casting offices and crew lounges. Wardrobe departments learned fast. Lightweight fabric was avoided. Trousers were cut generously. Darker colors became standard. Not because Tucker demanded it, because anything else created distraction. What makes Tucker's reputation last is how openly people talked about it at the time. This was not whispered gossip decades later. It was known, joked about, occasionally exaggerated, but rooted in observation. Unlike stars who relied on image protection, Tucker leaned into boldness. That attitude shaped his roles: authority figures, military men, commanding presences. His physical confidence reinforced the characters he played. Hollywood often punished actors who broke illusion. Tucker escaped that fate by aligning the myth with the role. When presence matches performance, audiences accept it as part of the package. Tucker reminds us that not every legend was accidental. Some were built through posture alone. Number 8. Spencer Tracy. Spencer Tracy represented seriousness, discipline, inner conflict. That made the rumors surrounding him even more surprising. Unlike flamboyant stars, Tracy projected restraint. His roles relied on credibility, not spectacle. Yet crew members quietly acknowledged challenges during fittings. Extra tailoring notes appeared. Added weight at hems, adjusted blocking during standing scenes. Studios handled it carefully. Tracy's public image leaned toward moral authority. Anything that threatened that balance stayed buried. Fan magazines focused on his work ethic and emotional depth. What kept the legend alive was contradiction. The quiet man, the steady presence, the unexpected challenge hidden beneath tailored suits. That contrast fascinated those who noticed. Tracy never commented, never corrected. His silence preserved the mystery. When rumors surface without confirmation, they often grow stronger. Hollywood understood that some myths work best when ignored. Tracy became proof that control does not always mean visibility. Sometimes it means letting the story remain unfinished. Number 7. Burt Lancaster. Burt Lancaster arrived with a background that Hollywood rarely knew how to manage. Acrobat, athlete. Physical performer first, actor second. His movement filled the frame. Leaps, falls, tight costumes built for action revealed more than studios preferred. Designers adjusted quickly. Heavier material, strategic angles, careful staging. Lancaster's strength made the issue unavoidable. When bodies move with confidence, the camera notices. Unlike stars trained for stillness, Lancaster demanded space. What separates Lancaster from others is intention. His physicality served the story. The roles required realism. Soldiers, prisoners, fighters, anything too polished would break the illusion. Hollywood adapted because the performances demanded it. The legend followed naturally. When authenticity replaces glamour, details emerge that studios cannot fully smooth away. Lancaster did not carry rumor as personality. He carried it as consequence, and that made it believable. Number 6. Clark Gable. Clark Gable defined leading man confidence. The mustache, the stance, the stare. Everything about him suggested authority. That confidence extended into costume challenges studios quietly managed. Tailoring notes referenced adjustments for trousers, belts, and posture. Not drastic, just enough to keep the frame balanced. Gable's roles placed him front and center. There was nowhere for the camera to look but at him. Any distraction risked breaking the spell. Studios responded with careful wardrobe planning. What sustained Gable's reputation was consistency. Film after film, the same presence, the same confidence. When patterns repeat, audiences notice even without knowing why. Gable never acknowledged it. He did not need to. His power came from command, not commentary. Silence protected the image while fueling curiosity. By the end of his career, the legend felt inevitable. Not because it was exaggerated, but because Hollywood never denied it. Number 5. Victor Mature. Victor Mature looked carved rather than dressed. Broad shoulders, heavy build, and a presence that filled costumes before he spoke a line. Hollywood noticed immediately. Studios cast him in roles that emphasized strength. Biblical epics, historical dramas, larger-than-life figures that required authority and scale. Those costumes were thick, layered, and carefully structured for a reason. Lightweight fabric was rarely an option. Wardrobe teams learned quickly that balance mattered. Too tight, and the frame shifted. Too loose, and power vanished. The solution was structure, heavy material, controlled cuts, careful blocking during long-standing scenes. What sustained Mature's reputation was consistency. Film after film, the same physical certainty appeared. Audiences may not have named it, but they felt it. He looked different from the refined leading men around him. Mature never commented on the talk. He did not need to. His roles absorbed the mythology naturally. Strength read as authenticity. Hollywood often builds legends by accident. With Mature, the camera simply confirmed what tailoring already knew. Number 4. Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas carried tension in every frame. Jaw tight, shoulders squared, energy coiled rather than relaxed. Unlike polished stars, Douglas projected intensity. His costumes had to keep up. Wardrobe notes emphasized durability and structure, especially in fitted trousers and uniforms. Movement exposed everything. Designers adjusted constantly. Douglas's reputation grew because he never softened his physicality. He leaned forward. He challenged the frame. The camera followed reluctantly. What made the legend linger was contrast. His emotional performances were raw, vulnerable, and fierce. That emotional force amplified physical presence rather than distracting from it. Douglas did not play into rumor. He focused on performance. That seriousness gave speculation room to grow without interference. Hollywood thrives on contradiction. Douglas embodied it, refined yet forceful, controlled yet relentless, and the image held because it was never explained. Number 3. Tyrone Power. Tyrone Power was elegance in motion, handsome, athletic, and effortlessly composed. Unlike heavier stars, Power's build emphasized balance. Swordplay films, adventure roles, and romantic dramas required precision. Costumes fit close to maintain fluid movement, which demanded constant adjustment under bright lights. Wardrobe teams worked quietly, reinforced seams, careful angles, strategic staging during action scenes, everything designed to keep the illusion smooth. What made Power's legend subtle was restraint. He never relied on bravado. His confidence lived in grace. That understated presence made details more noticeable, not less. Fans noticed something different, even if they could not explain it. Power looked complete, unforced. Hollywood rewarded refinement. Power's reputation survived because it aligned perfectly with the roles he played. Nothing felt accidental. Number 2. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift changed what vulnerability looked like on screen. Quiet, introspective, emotionally open. His physical presence contrasted sharply with traditional leading men. Slimmer build, softer movement, but unmistakable intensity. Costumes fit closer, revealing more than studios were used to managing. Tailors adjusted constantly, not to hide, but to balance fragility with control. Clift's roles demanded realism, not polish. That realism allowed stories to grow quietly. What sustained Clift's reputation was intimacy. The camera lingered on him. The audience leaned in. When frames tighten, details become harder to ignore. Clift never acknowledged speculation. His focus stayed inward. That silence preserved mystery. Hollywood learned that softness could be just as powerful as strength, and sometimes more revealing. Number 1. Johnny Weissmuller. Johnny Weissmuller sits at the top because his legend arrived first. The Tarzan films of the early 1930s forced Hollywood to confront something it had never dealt with before. A nearly bare costume, constant movement, water scenes, bright lighting. There was nowhere to hide. Studio solutions multiplied. Reinforced ties, emergency stitching, careful framing. Publicists quietly asked theaters to soften lighting during certain moments. Audiences noticed anyway. Letters arrived, rumors spread. The studio never addressed them. Silence became confirmation. Weissmuller's physical presence shaped an entire character. Tarzan felt powerful because he looked different. The myth became inseparable from the role. Before fan forums, before freeze frames, the legend already existed. That makes Weissmuller the foundation of everything that followed. Hollywood learned its first lesson in quiet damage control. and it never forgot it. So what was Hollywood really hiding? Not scandal, not shock, control, tailoring, framing, silence, and suggestion did the heavy lifting while legends grew in the background. These stories survived because studios never erased them. They managed them. Now that you know what to look for, those classic films may feel a little different. Which name surprised you most? Drop it in the comments, share this with a classic film fan, and subscribe for more stories hiding just outside the frame.